All right, so we're going to be using Unreal 5 in this tutorial. So let's begin by starting off by selecting third person here. We're going to be using blueprints for this particular series, and give your project any name you like. I'm just going to call mine Play, and that's just because we're going to be playing around. I'm going to go ahead and hit Create. I'll pause the video now until it's done building our project. So, little tour of the interface. Off to the side here we have our outliner, which has a list of the elements that we have in our scene. We have a content browser down here. Yours might not be docked like this. So you can see down here we have a content drawer, and then you can dock it in layout, and then it'll look the way that mine did before. If you get any messages like this where it's asking you to update your project, go ahead and click Update. Up at the top, you can see we have a toolbar here, and there's a play button. Go ahead and click Play. And you can use the WASD keys, WASD, to move around. Make sure to click in the view if you can't move your character. Spacebar will allow your character to jump. We're eventually going to just delete this character out and put our own character in the scene. I'm going to go ahead and hit Escape to exit this mode. Now, in order to move around the perspective interface here, and you can see if I click on perspective here, I can switch between these different views, which are whether it's top, bottom, left, and so forth. But I'm going to go back to perspective. If I hold the Alt key on the keyboard and I hold the left mouse button down, you can see I can rotate. If I click the right mouse button by itself, I can also rotate. If I scroll the wheel on my mouse in and out, I can zoom. And if I click the wheel in on my mouse, you can see I can do this pan, which is based on the camera's positioning. So it takes a little bit of getting used to. Now, the first lesson is going to roughly relate to how to model inside of Unreal here. Now, what I'd like to do is essentially I'm going to keep the third-person character controller for now, and then we're going to build out a scene. Now, a question that comes up quite often for most technical artists or people who are interested in even being environment artists, where's somewhere I can start with just sort of getting a bigger view of modeling and how to model for games? And what I like to have my students start off by doing is going to Houseplantscom. And the reason for that is a great environment artist should know something about architecture and the way things are designed. And the best way to do that for me is to study house plans, to study the way things are constructed and built. So I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to go over to Houseplantscom. All right, so here we are in Houseplantscom. You can really pick whatever you like, whatever house sort of is of interest to you. I think this place looks pretty cool inside the modern section. So if I click on modern, you can see it's the first option here. But what's really interesting is when you click on it, you'll get all of the different views of the house, and it gives you a little idea of what the key specs are. And as you scroll down here, you'll actually get the blueprints. So let's say for my particular video game, it has the like I'd like it to, here's the exterior deck, here's the guest house, the office, and say it's some sort of like, I don't know, like murder mystery game where I'm walking around the house trying to explore, right? This gives me a pretty good base for a generic house. So say I'm a detective, I'm entering the house and I'm trying to figure out where the person was killed, and I find them in the great room or living room, whatever it is. So there's a couple things I like to do. One, I like to download and install PureRef. So I'm going to pause the video and go to the PureRef site. So you can see here, it's just pureref.com. And then when you click on Get PureRef, you can make a donation if you like, or you can enter 0 if you're kind of strapped for cash, and you can use the software. Now, what's great about PureRef is you can see here, if I right click and I just go to copy image, and I actually have PureRef installed already on my computer, you can see it gives me this thing. It says there's nothing inside of here. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Control V and just paste this image in there. And I can cycle through here and grab all the images I want of this house and just paste it inside this PureRef file, right? Now, I'm not going to grab all of them. Maybe just a couple of the images of the exterior of the house, maybe something like this. Because I'm really only interested in this section, and maybe I'll model the front of the house. So maybe I'll model, here's the back. So for my video games, they might see this image if they come up to the house. Let's see what else we got here. Then maybe see this side, but they'll never see the back because I'll model some trees or something to put back there. Let's kind of move this over. You can also expand. Oh, the way I'm moving pure ref is I'm holding the right mouse button down and I'm clicking the middle wheel in to pan. So middle wheel to pan. So let's just see if we can get just this last one here. All right, and then what you can do is you can just kind of have this off to the side. Now I'm going to start a folder by right-clicking and just hitting Save or hitting Control-S. And for now, in my Documents folder, I'll make a new folder in here, and I'll just call it House Model, something like that. And then inside the House Model folder, I'll make another folder called Ref. And inside this reference folder, I'll just call this house_modern. Now, if it's an important house and it belongs to a specific character, a lot of times in games you'll name it after the character and it's their home. What I'd like to do is, because I'm going to be using this texture to work from, is I'm just going to right click in here. I'm going to save this image and I'm going to find that folder in my documents here. Forgive the messiness. And I'm going to, let's see if I can find that folder, which is called House. Here it is, House Model, and I'm going to save this as Floor Plan. All right, so now I'm going to take this and I'm actually just going to put it off to the right-hand side of the screen. I'm actually pretty done with this. Now let's jump back into Unreal. And what I want to do is I'm going to decrease book one, like all of these, up to cylinder. And I'm just going to highlight all of it. I'm going to press delete. And oops, looks like I got rid of the boxes. Or I'm sorry, let's go ahead and delete all of these. I don't need them. And then we'll delete block one. I don't need these as well. So I'm just going through and just sort of deleting all this stuff. And you might be wondering, well, like, okay, so if we're deleting all this, what do I do? What am I going to use to have my character run around, right? So let's find this playground area. I don't really need this stuff either. Let's delete this and then let's get rid of these, because we want to be starting from scratch. What I do have is my player start here, and this is where my character loads from. So you can see here, if we hit Alt and P, it plays it and our character is just falling, and that's not what we want, right? So I'm going to select player start and I'm going to hit F to focus. And below this, I'd like to create a ground plane in which I'm going to put that house plan. So up at the top here, I'm going to go to select mode and I'm going to go to modeling. And you can see there's box, there's rect, there's all this stuff. There's a couple other things. There's this really cool one called cube grid. And I can left click and just drag out a pretty big grid here, something like that. And then if I press E like elephant, you can see it pops it up. And I'm going to go ahead and hit escape to exit that mode. And you can see here it's got all these different cubes, right? And there's they function as just sort of grid placement, right? So if I, let's go ahead and let's hit escape for a second. And I'm going to uncheck sort of cube grid there. And I'd like to hit complete, and that'll finish it off for me. So I'm going to hit W here, and you can see that my pivot point is in the corner here, which is fine for now. But what you'll see though is my third person, or my player start rather, is inside the floor. So if I press play here, you can see I'm falling through the floor. But if I drag my player start up a little bit above the ground, and I press play, the character falls onto that surface we just made, which is great. Okay, so let's see, how are we going to scale this up, or what are we going to do with this? Well, I'm going to go ahead and navigate. I'm going to pause the video and navigate to that folder where that reference image is in my documents folder that we saved off is. All right, you can see over here on the side that I've navigated to that reference folder. If I click back in here and I go to third person, here, let me expand that out a little bit. I want to show you actually where this grid lives inside of our scene. So if I right click on this cube grid and I go browse the asset, notice under maps here, there's a folder called generated, and then there's my username. And it actually made a copy of this plane. And this is important for later because we can actually export this out as an FBX file and edit it in our scene. But for now, I'm just going to right click and I'm going to make a new folder here. And I'm going to just name this house_01. And I'm going to drag this in there, move here. And then inside this folder, I'm going to grab this floor plan and I'm going to drop it inside of here. Now, for this object, if I right click and I create a new material and I call this house plan, I can actually drag and dump this on top of here. And if I move this up a little bit, you'll see it added the house plan material. See, you could also do it this way. So if I double click this, I can actually add this image as a base color here. And if I attach the RGB to base color, you can see it appears. And I go into my scene. If I hit save, and I might have to hit apply. Nope, it did it for me. You can see here, it applied it on each one of those little cubes. There's also a couple other options here, like there's unwrapping, which will allow us to unwrap our entire scene, and then we hit accept. And you can see it applied it on there across the whole thing for us. There's auto UVs, you can accept that. But it's not really allowing us to edit it so that we're seeing the entire UV on there, right? There's these other options like project, which will allow us to do that. So if we hit accept here, now you can see it projected that on the surface for us. I'm going to go ahead and close this, and I'm going to save my entire scene here, save my current level. Now, when I hit Alt-P, you can see now, I can see my character in relation to that ground plane. So you're going to tweak this by and large, like on and off, but you might be like, well, that's a pretty good sized dining room. This is a pretty good sized kitchen. And we're going to be using this kind of a robot cyborg character as the height reference for our own character that we're going to model in Blender or Maya or something. All right, so the last element that I want to do is I just want to kind of scale this up just a little bit. And you can see we have all this grid snapping and stuff. So W is our move, E is our rotation, see that? And R is our scale. So I'm really just going to scale this up just a little bit more. Actually, let's go like 2 notches. Let's see, what are we at? 1.5, and then let's just go 1.5 by 1.5, and then let's test that one more time. I think that looks big enough. It looks like our character would sit here. All right, so what do we want to do next, right? Well, another thing that we can do is start to block out the walls, and that's these right here. And there's a couple ways we can do that. We can do that by creating a box and extruding it. We can also, which we might do just because I want to teach you a new tool. And this video is running a little long, so I want to kind of end this with a little bit of a homework assignment. So if we go with our ground plane selected, and we go down to, let's find our option. Oh, here we go, cube grid. On top of this grid, I can actually drag out some of the walls. Something like this, and then something like this. Let's click in here. Just trying to get that good. And then I can hit E, and oh, it looks like it's on that grid. Let's make sure that we are here around this. Oh, here, let's move we can actually move our grid down. I know we can, here, hold on a second. Here's another helpful tool. We can do a poly extrude here on the surface, but it's kind of hard to see. There we go. And we can actually just draw out different polygon faces with poly extrude, but it's all working off of that grid. And if I hit complete here, you'll have to like move it up. So that's one tool. And there's also editing a cube itself, which I can just place on the side here. And then off to this little section here where it's modeling, we have a modeling tab. And if we go down here, you can see there's these attributes. There's the UVs that we did earlier. Let's see, what are some other cool tools I can show you? There's the this polygon modeling section. So you can see it says edit meshes uses via polygroups. If we click on that, actually, there we go. Let's select this, and then there we go. Now when we select that, you can see I can actually drag out that wall, and I can just sort of go around this way. adjust the thickness. Oops. And I'll probably just kind of stop there. I mean, along the wall. And then I'll select extrude here and I'll extrude it out just a little bit. Same thing here, select that wall, hit extrude, and then just drag that out here. Extrude an additional time. And you can see here, some of these are maybe like this is a port. Oh, this is the deck. So it would go a little bit longer. And this is where it's important that we bring in our reference here, our pure ref reference, because you can say, oh, there's the deck on the first floor. It's flat, and it's entering the dining room here. So this video, I got pretty long. It's about 15 minutes. What I would suggest is before the next video, just go ahead and hammer out anywhere there's walls. I'm probably going to, let's actually delete this. I'll make the deck really quick. But for the deck area, probably I'll just make a box. Or actually, let's use a different tool. We can use this. There's a lot of fun tools here. Let's see. Poly extrude, where you can draw. So let's just draw out our deck. So something like this. There we go. And give it a little bit of height. So part of it is I want you to explore the tools that are there. Maybe get all these walls in before the next video.